One of the things that you need to be aware of that's going to occur is rationing. You know, we might say, well, that sounds crazy. It's happened before, and I'll show you what it looks like because it's not fun, and it's going to be part of this New World Order plan. Eventually, rationing is actually going to be the normal system because you'll be able, they'll be able to control how much you can buy, what you can have, and things like that. But rationing is another thing that they do with inflation. This is another thing they do to prep people for taking away freedoms and taking away normalcy from everyday life. We're hearing about rationing going on in the UK. We're hearing about it going on in Germany. And we're going to hear about it here in America very soon. Inflation leads to this. So people just hear about the gas prices, and that's what they want. They want people to just get frustrated with the price of gas, right? We hear, oh, it's so high. And it is high. It's ridiculous. But you have to understand what they're doing. They're not just trying to agitate people. They're preparing people for a shortage of gas because eventually that's what it leads to. They continue to price people out of the market, then they do a shortage. So everything that's going on where they constantly are blaming Russia for the price of gas, which makes no sense anyway because we can, everybody knows we can make our own fuel and things like that. It's all being done on purpose, of course. The next step will be that Russia's not supplying it anymore, that they're cutting it off. Even though it's a small portion that we get from Russia, they'll just say that, there's no, because the idiots don't listen to anything. They just hear what, their party tells them. So the Liberal Party obviously just tells them, blames it on other people, just like liberal people tend to do in their lives. They don't take responsibility for their incompetency. They'll blame the shortage on Russia. In reality, this is what they want to do. And this, of course, leads to rationing. So we're seeing rationing going on over in Germany already and in the UK. That means that you can only get X amount of gas. Now, somebody on the website happened to mention here in America, they were from Ohio, and they said that they went to the pumps and they got to $50 in the pump and it stopped and they didn't put it in. And they said that it happened to their cousin. So people are seeing it here in America, whether it's a test run, they're doing it without telling people, or maybe it's a glitch in the electronic system that they already have planned out. It doesn't make a difference either way because it is coming. So rationing would be, you can only get 1 tank of gas per week. You can only get X amount of food per week. This is part of what the New World Order system is going to be. And they're going to ease people in. So rationing is now spreading and starting, I should say, and going to spread.
Russian gas accounted for more than half of Germany's gas imports last year. That fact, coupled with the war in Ukraine, prompted the Minister of Europe's largest economy to issue an early warning that it could be heading for a gas supply emergency, all the while trying to strike a reassuring tone.
It is important to emphasize that security of supply is guaranteed, that all contracts are being fulfilled, and that gas and oil are arriving in Germany as planned.
Germany's early warning is the first of 3 levels and includes the formation of a crisis team to monitor imports and storage. Only at the 3rd emergency level would the government intervene in the market to ration and divide up limited supplies. Moscow had threatened to cut off gas deliveries unless it was paid in rubles, something EU countries and the G7 had flatly rejected. Late Wednesday, Vladimir Putin said he would continue accepting euros for now.
We do that in 2.
Government officials say it's another sign that Germany must end its dependence on Russian energy sources, and soon.
We are very dependent on gas, on oil, on coal from Russia, and we want to phase out that as soon as possible.
But for now, Germany remains reliant on Russia. Its reserves are at 25% of capacity, and the economy minister warns that a stop to deliveries from Russia would have serious consequences. In the meantime, he's asking the German public to conserve energy where they can.
Now, this wouldn't be the first time that we've had rationing. I'm going to show you some funny clips, actually, of what rationing looks like. Now, we've had rationing with gasoline before. You take a look, it looks like a great time to be alive, to be honest, even though, of course, there was garbage going on in the world then, too. But here's some people who are dealing with gas rationing and gas shortages and what it looks like, because this is exactly what it's going to look like sooner rather than later, now, here in America and around the world.
This is unreal. Isn't this disgusting? Why doesn't anybody contact the president? Why is he letting this happen to us?
To sum up in the word of one irate motorist, the first day of the odd-even system was a disaster. Gas lines at many stations were a lot longer than normal.
Line today is longer than it's ever been. I have no explanation for it.
This gas line at one station on the Upper West Side ran from 96th Street and West End Avenue all the way up to 102nd Street. As might be expected, the longer the line and waiting time, the angrier some motorists became.
I think it's terrible. I really think it's terrible. I'm in here for an hour already.
There's no shortage. I don't believe there's a shortage.
The odd-even system can't do anything about the problem of no gas. Some of the people on line here have been in other lines and still don't have a tank of gas.
This is the second gas line this morning.
What happened at the first?
They ran out.
I've been in 2 gas lines already.
This morning?
This morning.
How long did you wait for the first one?
I've been in both lines over an hour, and I'm out of gas. Dead out.
Most service station operators were not following the new regulations to the letter. Drivers with more than a half a tank of gas should have been turned away, but no one was checking.
I don't intend doing that. It's too risky.
This morning we're a little short on help, so we are not checking gauges. But from what the purchases have been, there really is no need because they're all getting large sales.
What are we trying to do?
Well, my son is trying to see how much gas we have left in the tank and whether we can make it out on the Sawmill River Parkway. So he stuck his walkie-talkie antenna in the tank, which I do not see we're going to get out.
Well, all you motorists with odd number plates, tomorrow, it's your turn. I'm Frank Casey, Action News.
So obviously people are sitting in lines for an hour or two waiting to get gas. There will be a ration on that. There'll be 50 at some point. How much you can get or how many full tanks you can get per week will probably be the thing. Now, we already know that they're fine with eliminating jobs. They've taken jobs from everybody because of the outbreak for the most part. And they've also told everybody to work from home. A lot of people are like, this is a dream come true. And now they're realizing it's not really a dream come true because it's never going back to the way it was. So people aren't going to need a lot of gas. That's what they're going to tell you. Because remember, they want everybody hooked up inside of this digital realm. And I'll be covering more videos on that and the World Summit talking about that in the next couple of days. But that's what a rationing system begins to look like. It looks like shortages and it looks like limitations on how much you can get. And this right here, this is a clip of what it was like during World War II. This is exactly what it's going to look like at some point in the near future here, where keep an eye on how everything has its own tag on it. You get X amount, you can only get X amount of rations and portions. This is total control is what it is. And I apologize for the watermark in the video. Apparently the person who uploaded it decided they needed a watermark as if it's going to get them subscribers or something. But this video clip, which they don't own, they've watermarked. But this is actually from your own government talking about, well, rations.
During World War II, there was a battle on the home front, too. The tussle with ration books, tokens, and stamps. Supplies were short, and everything from shoes to gasoline was doled out. No stamps, no soap. Every cut of meat carried a certain point value, and many times stamps were more valuable than money. And rationing proved that the American people had vivid imaginations. The Office of Price Administration was swamped with fantastic tales from people who claimed they faced disaster without an extra allotment of this or that. Headaches were many. Housewives had a problem keeping track of stamps, and businessmen sought clerks and other help in vain. Pitied the poor storekeeper when it came time to balance his ration stamp records. Most gasoline ration cards were 8 cards, which call for an allowance of 3 gallons a week. You couldn't go far, but if you did get rolling, you found empty highways. Yes, Virginia, there once was room on city streets. With most meat going to feed the biggest army in U.S. history, a series of Meatless Tuesdays went into effect. Housewives were urged to save fats for the war effort. They got their reward in extra meat points, and they were also paid 4 cents a pound. And the housewife fought the Tin Can War, saving food cans for steel and tin salvage. The containers went from the home front to duty on the war front. Everyone was involved in World War II. Then, with victory, the lid was off. Gasoline flowed once more. It was, ho for the open road, fill her up, let's go to the beach, to the mountains. After we get rid of the ration book, America was back on wheels, and rationing was only a memory.
So you can see what the rationing system begins to look like, right? Everything is marked with a number, and everybody's allowed to only have a certain number of those things. So when you start looking around and seeing what's going on, we know that the World Economic Forum, we know that the World Summit, all these world leaders, let's just call them scumbags, have already told us that there's going to be a food shortage. Well, what comes from a food shortage isn't that, well, the shelves are empty. Yeah, that's part of it. But then it turns into rationing, where they say, well, we have X amount of meat. So it wouldn't be first come, first serve. It wouldn't be, and we've seen this obviously with the outbreak, where they've told you can only get 2 rolls of toilet paper, right? You don't think that that was part of the program? Of course it was. It was getting people prepared. Yep, you get 2 rolls of toilet paper. That's it. Yep, 2 roll or 2 bag, whatever it was at the time. And you get X amount of jugs of water, and you get X amounts of this. You can't, buy up the shelves and bring it home. People are like, oh, that's a good thing. So then people can't be a hoarder of it. Okay, that's fine. That's understandable, I guess, right? I mean, nobody should be hoarding it in their community if somebody, it comes down to a situation like that. However, that's not really what it's about. It's about full control of the government telling you what you can and can't have. And that's what this system is. It's a system of control, which is why it drives people like me and everyone who listens to this channel crazy, is that these morons think it's a utopia. And they don't realize the people at the top, there's going to be people controlling this quote unquote utopia, telling you what you can and can't do. These people think it's going to be like freedom and love and joy. They're going to be pumping that through the sound system, freedom and love and happiness. And some idiots will be, they'll be like, it's so great. But in their head, they're going to be like, this is hell. Right? Because they'll be like, I need to go, I want to, do this. And they'll be like, no, you can't do that. But go be happy over there and smile. They'll be like, okay. And that's what, most of these people will do. And of course, most of these people are pretty flaming already. So they'll probably be flamingly loving that type of life. But in the back of their minds, they'll be like, what have we done? What have we allowed them to do? All because of, this whole thing with bullying and this whole thing with, coddling people. That's what this, they've created this so that they can get people on board with this love utopian type of world that they plan on creating, where it's not real love. It's fictional love. It's fictional Big Brother caring about you. It's a control system where these people who have all the money and the resources will still have things beyond your comprehension. They might pretend like they're living with you amongst this, oh yeah, they're on an equal playing field too. And no, they'll be the controllers. They'll have trillions of resources and things. I don't want to say dollars because the dollar would exist, but they'll have everything. They'll control all the supplies, and they'll be able to have whatever they want, how much they want. But the people will not be allowed to. They'll be rationed off, right? Remember Soylent Green, right? The clip from Soylent Green, everybody's waiting in line. It's a world, and ironically, it's 2022. And it's, it's a world where, people are waiting, running for food because the shortages and everything like that. They're not able to. See, people only know what they see now, which is they've been spoiled their whole lives. They've taken it for granted, having food and things like that. Well, wait until the plug is pulled and all that stuff is done. Nobody knows how to farm. Nobody knows how to do anything on their own. Then they need Big Brother to feed them. Right? And Big Brother says, we'll feed you, but you only get X amount. Almost like going to a homeless shelter. That's what it's going to be like. Where you get, here's your slop on a plate. That's all you get today. Here's your slop on a plate. That's all you get today. There'll be still the illusion of freedom because they always have to have that illusion of freedom. So yeah, you might freely be able to go in the beginning to a store and get the things that you want, but you only have X amount that you can spend and only X amount of the same product you can buy. So rationing has been here before. They've done test runs on it. They've done it after World War II. And that's a time period that's totally different now. You could say, well, how come, Carl, they did it then and it's not, And the New World Order never got implemented, because it's a different time period. That was the beginning of the industrial age. So people were just happy that they can go and they could, that they could have cars that just, come out. So they were happy that they could have their car and having X amount of gas. They didn't have to do all the things that people think they need to do now, go here, go there, and do that. And of course, with food, they were just happy that they could, go to the store and live a life like that. So it was a totally different time period. We're way beyond that. We're in the most spoiled time period ever. A time period where people are just, they take all these things for granted, and all they care about is social status, how they look, what they're posting on Instagram, if it looks cool, how many likes it's a totally different world, and it's a freaking blank show that we live in now. So just imagine what it's going to be like when they pull the plug. These people are going to want rationing and be okay with rationing it, just like they're going to be okay with universal basic income. As long as they can go back to doing those things that they like to do, which are completely useless, pointless, self-absorbed things, they'll be okay. But when the grid's down and they can't do that, they're going to be like rabid zombies foaming at the mouth. But the rationing system, ladies and gentlemen, will be implemented and be back in play. They're already preparing for it in Germany with gas rationing, and in the UK, and that will spread here eventually. So it's going to go from inflation and high prices to limits on what you can and can't have.